We've already stated that as Nehemiah was building the wall, he had opposition. And we notice that opposition came from outside of the people of God. And Satan used those that were the governors and those that were the leaders of the surrounding peoples to cause difficulties with them. And Nehemiah pretty well was able to combat against them. And he was able to protect his own people, and they continued to build the wall. I wish that was the only opposition there was to come, but the problem is there was some more opposition that came, and this was a much more devastating opposition than the opposition from without. And this is the opposition from within. And what I mean is that the people themselves began to fight among themselves. It was the Jewish people. Now, he handled those that were from outside, but now there was problems within. Now, let me read this to you from the 5th chapter and the first few verses there. Now the men and their wives raised a great outcry against their Jewish brothers. And some were saying, "We and our sons and daughters are numerous. In order for us to eat and stay alive, we must get grain. And we are mortgaging our fields and our vineyards and all of our homes to get grain during this time." Still others were saying, "We have had to borrow money to pay the king's tax on our fields and vineyards, and although we are of the same flesh and blood as our countrymen, and those of our sons are as good as theirs, yet we have subject our sons and our daughters to slavery. Some of our daughters have already been enslaved, but we are powerless because our fields and our vineyards belong to others." So you see, they were coming now, and they were saying, though we are here to help build the wall, we've got some very serious problems. And that is, the rich are taking advantage of the poor. There were Jews that were taking advantage of those that did not have the money to pay the taxes and to pay out maybe the basic needs, and they were fighting among themselves. I wish this were not the case in church life, that we would have problems within the church, but we still have problems within the church. And once a church begins to go and begin to be built, you will find that there will be disagreements, because the people that you will bring in will all have their own personality, their own ideas, their own feelings, and their own wants, and it could be a problem. Let me give you one little bit of advice that I don't know whether you will run into this situation, but in every church that I've started, I've run into this situation. You see, there are always, in most situations, there are people that are Christians that are kind of problematic Christians. Now, I hate to say that, but there are people that just don't seem to be happy or satisfied with anything, and they cause problems within the church. I know I was talking one time, I was at a conference one time, and the man was talking, and he was talking about a person that was a problem person in his church, and he called him Robert, and he said Robert was quite a problem person, and described him. And about everybody in the church came up and says, "We've got a Robert in our church too. We've got one of these individuals." There are individuals that just don't really fit into the church. But the problem is that whenever a new church is being started, these problem people are going to say, "Oh good, I can get a new start," and they want to leave their church and come to the new one. And at first, the pastor is going to say, "Boy, great, come on in, we want you. It's a warm body." But then you discover that you've got a whole church of problem people, and you cannot build a church on problem people. There was a friend of mine that was starting a church in Amsterdam, right close to the airport in Amsterdam in Holland. And we talked a lot about that, and he said, sure enough, he said there was a lady that came right at the very beginning. And the lady said, "Oh, I'm going to come and join this church. I'm going to leave my other church, and the Lord has brought me to this one, and I want to be a part of this church." And he said, "Well, that's great." And she said, now, I don't have transportation, so I want you to come by and pick me up every Sunday and so I can come to church, and I'll come to church. And he said, no, you can take the bus like everybody else takes the bus and comes. You mean you're not going to pick me up? No, you can take the bus. Well, I'm not going to come then. Okay. Well, I guess I'll go ahead and come. And then she came to the pastor several weeks later and said, now, Pastor, I noticed that we have a doctor in the church, and I have some health problems, and it's hard for me to get out and go to the doctor's office. Will you tell the doctor that he is supposed to come to my home and visit me and examine me at home? And the pastor said, no, you can go to the doctor's office like everybody else does. And she got mad. And finally, she left the church. But he said this was one of those individuals that was going to come and was going to just bring problems. So we always have the difficulty of people within the church causing problems. Now, it was fascinating to me that when you read down the next verse, that Nehemiah said, when I heard their outcry and these charges, I was very angry. Another verse says, I pondered in my mind what these people were saying. And so when Nehemiah found out that there was this problem and this difficulty, he didn't attack it immediately. He sat back and he said, what I need to do now is I need to consider this, and I need to work very carefully to try to find solutions. And one of the jobs of a pastor is to be able to solve problems within the church. So he went to the brothers that had abused the others, and he said, what you are doing is not right. Shouldn't you walk in the fear of God to avoid the reproach of our Gentile enemies? And so finally they came back and says, we will give the money back, they said, and we will not demand anything more from them. We will do as you say. So Nehemiah addressed the problem slowly but surely, but very effectively. And addressing it, he was able then to make the amends that needed to be made. Now, one of the things that you have to realize is that Satan is going to be working in the start of any work that you do. It is going to be Satan. I don't know whether in your culture you're aware of what a bullfight is or not. I grew up in a state in New Mexico called, in the United States called New Mexico. And we used to go down to Mexico all the time. And Mexico has what they call bullfights. This is one of their sports. It's a fascinating thing, and I'll describe it to you if you're not aware of it. But a bullfight is where you have a matador. And a matador goes out in this big, round, circular arena. It's probably, I would say, about 50 meters in circumference, and all the people are sitting in the stadium all around it. And the matador goes out there and he has a red cape and he waves a red cape, and the bull charges the red cape, and then the matador steps back, and the whole thing is how close does the horns of the bull come to the matador. And the closer it comes, the higher acclaim the matador has. And so, and then eventually they kill the bull. Well, this is a very interesting sport. They call it a sport. I don't think it's too much of a sport. But the way the thing works is this. They train these bulls, when they were just a very young bull, to become a fighter. And then they're strong and they're husky. And what they do then is about 3 days before the bullfight takes place, they take this bull and they put him into a dark room where it's totally dark. They can still hear, but it's totally dark. And then on the day of the bullfight, they open up the door and the bull goes out into this arena, and there is this matador standing there with a red cape. And the bull's eyes are, he's been in the dark, and all of a sudden he looks, and he sees that red, and that red is abusive to him. And so he says, there's my enemy. And so he charges that. And as he charges it, he puts his head down and he goes and he hits the cape, and cape goes flying off to the side. And then he weighs it again, and he comes and he does it again, and he does it again, and he does it again, over and over again, until the poor bull is just totally dead tired and can hardly move and can hardly work. And then the matador comes in with 2 swords, and he stands before the bull, and he casts these swords into the neck of the bull, and the bull keels over and is dead. He dies. That is sport. Now, the interesting thing about bullfighting is that the bull makes one mistake, and this one mistake leads to his death. He thinks his enemy is that red cape. His enemy is not that red cape. His enemy is the man holding the red cape. But he attacks the red cape over and over and over again. My mother used to go to these bullfights, and she told me one time, and I was not born on a farm. I don't know all these things. You probably know it. But my mother said to me, "Do you know why they don't use cows for bullfights?" And I said, "Is it because cows don't have horns?" She says, "No, cows have horns." I didn't know that. She said, "Cows have horns, but they don't use cows for bullfights." I says, "Why not?" Because a cow is smarter than a bull, and a cow will attack the red cape only once, and the next time she attacks the matador, and they're too dangerous. They can only use the bull. Now, you see, the thing that's fascinating is that the thing that led to the death of the bull was that he confused who his enemy was. He said, "My enemy is that red cape." Nope. The enemy was the matador holding the red cape. And we do the same mistake a lot of times in our churches. We think that our enemy is that deacon, or that pastor, or that person, or that individual. And so we begin to attack that person and fight against that person. And we fight and we fight and fight until we're dead, or we kill the church. And it's a battle from within. Nehemiah handled 2 different forms of opposition. The first form of opposition was from without. He handled that. The second form of opposition was from within the community. And through patience and through a lot of prayer, he was also able to handle that. You need to be ready to know there will be opposition from within and from without.